Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Bayou Bets on Monday, August the 28th, 2023. It is time, once again, to talk with our friends about all the things going on around, especially about the Saints and preseason being over. In fact, let's show you our topics of the day. It is getting real for the Saints. Cutdown day is Tuesday tomorrow. Is it Wil Lutz? Is it Blake Grupe? Jimmy Graham going to make the team? We're going to get into all those things, as well as LSU and Tulane getting ready for week one. What is going on, my friend Spencer the Guru Urquhart?
Hey, how's it going, Jim? Glad to be back here with y'all. And yeah, gonna be here until end of football season, ready to rock and roll. It's almost here. LSU this weekend, Tulane this weekend, and the Saints after that. We've finally made it. All this talk and speculation is finally about to get real.
Yeah, we haven't quite made it yet. I don't know what the deal is about today. It's not just because it's Monday. Maybe it's because I'm going to be like officially like super old tomorrow. I don't know what the deal is, but I'm telling you, it's a weird day. We'll see how it's going. Poppy wants to know how we're doing today. How was your weekend? You had a big live weekend, didn't you?
Yeah, out in Oklahoma for my buddy's bachelor trip. It was pretty wild, sent him off right, went out and had some fun, at the different bars out there. So it was a good time. It was a good time.
Must have fun.
And yeah, for sure. So,
I guess there wasn't a lot of preseason watching going on.
No, I actually got to catch a decent amount of Saints. I was on my way back, so got to see that. But yeah, other than that, some of the guys like football, but wasn't a whole lot of watching.
Calvin is who dat from Phoenix, Arizona. That is a long way. Calvin, I think we beat your heat this past weekend. I'm glad it's gone. It feels like a normal summer day here in New Orleans again. It is crazy. It's been a crazy month or so. Matt, New Orleans Saints, home 1-0. I'm not sure what that. Maybe he says the Saints are going to go 1-0. We're going to talk about all that. In fact, let's get right into it. Let's talk about the Saints and preseason being over, a 17-13 loss. There is some good news about the loss, Spencer, that I heard last night. Only twice has a team going undefeated in preseason and then going on to win the Super Bowl. So that's good news.
Right. Yeah. No, that's someone say, "Oh, the Saints going to win tonight." I was like, "Well, I kind of hope they don't win." They asked me that yesterday. I was like, "I kind of hope they don't win because we know how that goes. Teams that go undefeated in preseason typically don't do that well outside of the Ravens. But even them, they went undefeated all those years and didn't win the Super Bowl. So yeah, doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But yeah, kind of glad that they didn't go undefeated because then that would have given the I don't know what you call them, the Aunt Mabel optimist.
Oh man, that'd have been yeah. Well, I know that at some point in this show I'll probably quiet some of the Aunt Mabel optimists. Poppy's asking, was it 100 degrees down here? Here's my 10-second weather report. On Sunday, it was the hottest it's ever been since they started recording temperatures in New Orleans, and it by a lot. Their previous record was 102 for the past I think it's been 130 years they've been recording temperatures. And it was 105 yesterday. The real temperature, not the heat index, the real temperature. So, yes, it was really, really hot. So, but talk about hot. I think the Saints are hoping to go hot into this regular season, Spencer, as we talk about reasons for optimism, reasons for skepticism. I know yours and mine are fairly close. We'll start off with mine. And I think the reason for optimism going into the season is, look, I love the Derek Carr signing. As we've talked about this forever. I think Derek Carr is really going to help this team. Also, the defensive front play a 4-2-5, so it's really the front six, not really a front seven. But I think this front six is really going to do a good job. I love the way the linebackers have played in the preseason. I am especially happy about Jalen Smith and what he's been able to do in the preseason. I think he's going to play a ton when they get to the regular season. I'm not saying he's going to take over for Pete Werner or anything, but I think they're going to find plenty of ways to get Jalen Smith into the ballgame.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, linebacker was a position I was a little concerned about, but now looking stronger with Jalen Smith. And yeah, the offense, I'm pretty optimistic about the offense because just from seeing that first drive against the Chiefs, they just looked more efficient. and just moving. That was the best I've seen him move since Drew Brees was under center. So I feel like with Derek Carr's experience and leadership will carry over, that the offense will be much more efficient this season, even early on without Kamara, because I think they'll have enough quick plays designed, with a healthy Michael Thomas, and Olave can stretch the field. Rashid Shaheed should be back. Taysom Hill is going to be all over. So, yeah, I'm positive about what the offense is looking like.
Yeah, and I think overall, and Zach asked me this last night. I did the Saints Insider show for a little bit last night on the dome floor, and Zach was asking me, do we feel overall positive, or do we feel, in the middle or negative going into the season? And I think overall you feel positive. I mean, it leads me to my skepticism, which is, kind of counteracting what I'm trying to say. But what makes me nervous now is the same thing that made me nervous a month ago. And I've said this like probably 10 times, but I still think the Saints are one major offensive line injury away from a catastrophe. I mean, if you looked at how the second string O-line and the third string O-line has been playing, it's been awful. So, I mean, that is a true cause for concern. But that being said, if this O-line can stay together like they are now, I thought it was interesting Trevor Penning didn't play last night. I was kind of wondering why he didn't play. I guess they feel like he's ready. But if this O-line can stay together, this team could be really good, like 11-6, win the division, make some noise in the playoffs, kind of good. If the offensive line has any trouble at all, you could seriously be staring 7-10 in the face again.
Yeah, that's very true. I see Kevin there in the comments is agreeing with you about it's a question mark, and depth definitely is. I still got faith in the starting five. I still think Penning was going to continue to develop and get better. Hurst, even if Pete's not ready, will be able to hold it down at left guard. McCoy is solid at center. Rui should continue to grow at right guard. We know what we've got with Ramczyk. So It's one of those things, though, if you get injuries, it will be very much a question mark, because he's already hurt, and even if he's healthy, he's not that reliable. And behind them, you just don't know who's going to make it. You got the Storm Norton, Throckmorton. You got all these names, but
man, they were awful last night.
That's what I'm saying. You can't.
Dick Hannon was running for his life last night. I mean, literally. I mean, we talked about last week how if he didn't have a concussion, he certainly banged his head last week, and the pupils were getting kind of big there. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, I just don't. They can't keep, if they have to use any of these guys, you can't have Derek Carr running for his life.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. So health will be key. You got to
no doubt about it.
Keep that starting five healthy. And the rookie Saldivari, I would think, will make the roster for sure, with being that these other veterans they brought in aren't doing too good. Even if he's not ready to start, at least he's got some room for growth. I feel like a lot of these guys, like Throckmorton, for example, he's been on the team now for years. I don't think he makes the final roster. It's like, you know what you've got there. He's not showing signs of growth. It's time to move on and go with the younger guys.
I don't know. Throckmorton, the thing that Throckmorton has going for him, and the reason why I do think he will make the team, I think Throckmorton makes the team because he's versatile and can play almost any O-line position except center. Excuse me. So that I do think that he will make the. It won't surprise me if he doesn't, because I agree he hasn't done anything in the preseason that showed me that he's some super lineman or anything, and none of the backup linemen really have. But I think he makes it because of his versatility. Mr. Horse is asking, when do they announce the cuts? Tomorrow. Tomorrow is the deadline. They have to be, I think it's by 5 p.m. tomorrow. Kevin's got a good question. Does Traquan Smith make the team? He's been banged up. Wouldn't surprise me at all, Spencer, if he was put on the PUP list.
Right. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking he gets put on the PUP list, and either Shaq Baker or Lynn Bowden end up making it. I think they might go with the rookie, though, there, and they'll go with two rookies with
A.T. Perry's got to make this team.
A.T. Perry, I'm basically keeping him as Shaq Davis. He had our other rookie receiver. Shaq Davis and A.T. Perry. Perry's a lock to me, and as well as Keith Kirkwood. They got Thomas, Olave, Shaheed, Kirkwood, Perry. Those five are locks. Traquan, if he goes on the PUP, I think it comes down to either Bowden or Davis. I know Bowden's got some special teams prowess, but so does Shaheed. So to me, Davis has more potential as a receiver, so I think he'll get the 6th spot if Traquan goes on the pup. If not, though, they'll probably keep Traquan because we know how Mickey Loomis is. He's loyal to his veterans.
No question. Before we get to topic 2, forgot to mention at the top of the show that we ask you to subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel if you have not already. In fact, if you're on Facebook, you can subscribe to the Bayou Bets Facebook channel as well. We have everything going on there. In fact, all of our shows are shown on Bayou Bets YouTube and Facebook channels every Monday and Thursday, along with Datitude on Friday. Also, a reminder that Caesars Sportsbook is the official odds partner of bet.nola.com. They've got a new promotion going on right now. If you make a bet of $50, you get $250 in free bets. Check that out on bet.nola.com if you have not already signed up. All right, so that gets to the second half of our Saints conversation and the question of, let's start with the non-kicker portion of this show, and that's Jimmy Graham. And we've kind of talked about him a little bit, but I think you and I both think the same about whether he will make the team. I don't know that we feel the same about whether he should make the team. I'll start with you, Spencer. Is Jimmy Graham going to be a part of the 53-man roster?
I think he will be, and I think last night solidified his case. I know it was a limited series, but in that series, he really looked the part. I think they basically sat down with him and were like, look, you need to step up this week if you want to make this football team. And he did just that. He stepped up and showed that he still got something left in the tank. And it won't be in a volume role, but he'll be someone that will come off the bench, especially in red zone packages, and could make an impact here and there. So I feel like he's worth keeping.
Well, before I get to, I love that your dad is watching this show all the time, and this comment that he makes, best receiving group the Saints have ever had. I hate to disagree with your dad, but I think the Saints are thin at receiver. I mean, I talked about this on Final Bet last week. I think Juan Kincaid and Garland Gillen both agreed with me. It's not. I think the top, Chris Olave, is fantastic. I think Olave is a potential Pro Bowler. I think he's going to take a big leap forward. He may have 1,400 yards receiving. I think that Juwan Johnson is a great tight end and is going to be a big addition. I think that he and Carr are going to have a great rapport. But if you're counting on Michael Thomas to play more than 10 or 12 games, you're crazy. And after that, it's shallow. Can A.T. Perry be a big part of this team? I'm not sure. Can Keith Kirkwood do in his second chance with the Saints what he wasn't really able to do before? I don't know. Can Foster Moreau be more than just a blocking tight end? I'm not sure. I mean, so these are all question marks. And when it comes to Jimmy Graham, here's where I disagree with you. I agree that he's going to make the team because he's Jimmy Graham, and I think they've gone this far with him. And I think that he was going to have to really be bad not to make this team in the first place. But I have a problem with a guy as old as he is, who's basically played, not basically, he's played 6 games in 2 years. And he's on the wrong side of his career. He came back only because he wanted to play with the Saints. He wanted to be on this team, and they're going to let him be on this team. But I don't see what he does for you. I think they'd be better served to have another spot for an extra offensive lineman or another receiver that they're going to cut, and we'll be talking about on Thursday. I just don't see what Jimmy Graham adds to you. I think he's great if you're talking about just maybe a red zone offense, but you don't keep a player for just a red zone receiver, I don't think. So I hope he proves me wrong. I really do. I like Jimmy Graham. I think he's been obviously a key Saint. Is when you go back to some of the times they, right after the Super Bowl when Jimmy Graham came here. Never forget the catch he made against San Francisco in the playoffs. They end up losing the game anyway because the Saints couldn't stop Alex Smith and they drove right down the field. But I am not a fan of keeping Jimmy Graham when they could keep someone younger. That's just and we're going to get to someone younger in just a minute in the kicking side of things. But I know I'm in the minority, Spencer. I know most people want them to keep Jimmy Graham, but I just don't feel that way.
Yeah, so who would you rather them keep though? Because we just talked about how
one of the younger receivers that they're going to cut.
So you'd say he'd rather keep 7 receivers than 4 tight ends?
I don't think there's any need for 4 tight ends in this offense whatsoever. And another point about Jimmy Graham, Spence, I think that if you cut him, I don't think anyone's going to be rushing to pick him up. In fact, I don't think anyone's going to pick him up. He's still going to be there. If he gets cut 2 weeks from now, he'll still be available if you need him, if somebody gets hurt. So that goes back to Kevin asking, does Kroll make the team? I don't think so. You're certainly not going to keep 5 tight ends. So Kroll, I mean, is I wouldn't necessarily keep Kroll over Jimmy Graham. But again, either an extra lineman, which I think they're going to need, bring in a lineman, a trade for one. There's all sorts of things you need, but I just don't think a 4th tight end is needed. Jimmy says Jimmy's not getting cut. Deborah says we want Jimmy Graham. Again, I know I'm in the minority when it comes to this opinion. I just don't see what a 36, 37-year-old 4th-string tight end does for you. I just don't. But we're going to move on. We're going to talk about kicker, because that's also an interesting topic. Will it be Wil Lutz or will it be Blake Grupe? Spencer, both have kicked very well in the preseason. You know, Wil Lutz has had a couple of so-so kind of years. Blake Grupe wants to get his shot. Where do you think the Saints go with this?
I think they go Lutz because it was only a few years ago that he was a Pro Bowler. Yeah, I feel like as long as he's healthy, they're going to go with him, because he had battled some injuries that may have had something to do with him struggling. But I would rather Grupe, because I feel like it would give the Saints just some fresh energy at kicker. I feel like with Wil Lutz, he's had 2 years now that were just kind of off. So I don't know. It's one of those things. I know they're going to keep Lutz. That's their guy. They're loyal. But if I was the GM, I tend to like to take chances. And to me, kicker's a position you can afford to take chances at, because there's just so many of them out there. If you keep Grupe and he doesn't work out, hell, you might be able to get Lutz back. I don't think teams are going to be banging at the door.
I don't know about that.
Wil Lutz. Maybe Sean Payton.
I disagree.
I mean, Denver, I feel like whoever the Saints cut, Sean, don't be surprised if Sean Payton goes and scoops them up.
Yeah, I think that whoever gets cut is going. I mean, I think there's a chance that Payton, especially if it's Lutz. If Lutz gets cut, Denver is going to make sure that they try to get him. I think that if whoever gets cut is going to get picked up real quick. So Kevin says Lutz will be picked up immediately. Well, so will Grupe. Again, I don't think neither the Broncos nor the Titans have a kicker. And wouldn't it be interesting if whoever gets cut kicks the winning field goal against the Saints in week 1? Well, I don't know what. I wouldn't be funny, put it that way. It would be disheartening, and we'd be talking about that for a little bit longer. I think that it will be Lutz as well, but I would also choose Grupe. I think Wil Lutz has been very inconsistent over 2 years. He's proven. Well, he's also proven that he's been inconsistent for the past 2 years. I don't feel comfortable at all that he's going to make a 45-yarder to win a game. And you know, Sav makes a great point here. He says Grupe would be way cheaper. Absolutely. Zach made a point last night on the Saints Insider Show that you might even be able to get something for Wil Lutz. You might be able to get a 6th round or 7th round draft pick from Denver for Wil Lutz. I agree. And Grupe's cheaper. Are the Saints going to do it? No. I don't necessarily think they'll do it. But, you know, we talked about in pre-production as well, Spencer, that it's the quote-unquote safe thing to do. But I don't know why it's a safe thing to do. It's only safe if Grupe stinks and, you know, the people will come out and say, well, you should have kept Lutz. Well, I mean, what happens if you keep Lutz and Lutz stinks and Grupe goes on and is good for someone else? Why is it any less safe? I just don't understand the whole thought philosophy. I'd rather the younger, cheaper guy if they're both the same.
Right. Yeah, there's very few kickers that you've got to keep. I mean, like Justin Tucker, for example. I mean, yeah, you can't just, even if he's a little off in preseason, the Ravens aren't going to cut a guy like that. But in this case, Lutz, now it's been multiple years since he's been at an elite level. Yeah. So to me, if you've got this young kid who's drilling kicks and got a big leg and just seems to have that swagger about him, it's like you need to definitely consider it. So if the team would be willing to take a swing at this position, which, like I said earlier, you can afford to do so, then I would just go with that. But we know that's just not how the organization operates. Yeah,
not who they are. You're right. So I think if If you asked me to put percentages on it, I think it's about 80% Lutz, 20% Grupe, and I think there's a 90% chance that either one of them gets cut or traded. They end up on a roster, and they're on. I think both of these guys are on uniform on an opening day in 2 weeks. That's the way that I feel. I really believe that. Going back to Jimmy Graham, Lely, and I never got to this comment. Jimmy Graham staying no matter what. No matter what. I don't understand that at all. That's definitely not true. I don't think that it's a 100% given that Jimmy Graham is on this team. Nothing about him being better than the others or not. I'm not really sure what that means. If you're saying that he's not, that he's what and what with Juwan Johnson, I hope that's not what you're saying, because Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau are head and shoulders above Jimmy Graham. It's not close. So, I mean, Jimmy Graham is clearly the fourth tight end. Now, you can make an argument that Taysom Hill is, even though he's got TE listed next to his name, he's more of an ATH because he's all over the place. So, I mean, if you want to make that point, then maybe you could make a case that Graham stays as the third tight end because Taysom's going to be all over the place. I might be able to accept that. I don't know, Spence. I mean, it's something we're going to be talking about, I think, into the season, because I just don't think – I think they are going to keep him again. I just don't think he's going to be effective. What do we say in week 3 if Jimmy Graham has like 3 catches for 21 yards?
I mean, it's something. The thing that would concern me more than anything would be if something would happen with Foster Moreau, is Jimmy Graham going to go in and block, because when he was with the Saints initially, he wasn't much of a blocker. I know he's more experienced now, but that's still not really his thing. But he's going to have to probably do that at times, because we need Juwan Johnson to be a receiving threat.
100%.
At this point in their careers, Juwan Johnson's a much better receiving threat than Jimmy Graham. So Jimmy Graham's going to have to do both. He's not going to be able to just be a receiver if he wants to be a valuable part of this team, because if something would happen to Moreau and you need a blocking tight end, might have to, at that point, cut Graham and sign a tight end that's more suited to blocking.
Yeah, and one thing is, I think the league is as deep or is deeper than it's been in a long time at tight end. So I think that they could probably find someone. I think that Lucas Krull probably gets onto the practice squad. I think people are going to be rushing to pick up Lucas Krull. I don't see him making the 53-man roster, so I think that it would be easy to put him on the practice squad. We'll have to wait and see. Tedra says, let's see. We got weapons everywhere. I don't need him to have to record numbers. Just be dependable when the time comes. But that's not – I hear you, and I can understand that, but I just don't understand. I don't think that's a reason to keep him on the roster. I mean, you don't keep a guy on a roster just because you want a toy to play with from the 8-yard line. That's just my opinion. Lely is saying he will retire at the end of the season as Saint. Well, he can retire tomorrow as a Saint. I mean, what's the difference between tomorrow? I mean, he still can retire a Saint. Doesn't matter. He's put the uniform back on. He's a Saint now. So he got what he wanted. That doesn't hold water with me. Anyway. All right. Any other surprises you see tomorrow, Spencer? I think there's going to be some. I'm not sure where or who, but there are always a couple head scratchers. Like, I'm really interested to see if a guy like Jontre Kirkland makes the team, a kind of a local guy. Now, he's probably a guy that would make the practice squad. You wouldn't have to probably worry about cutting him, but the fact that they had him returning all the kicks and punts last night, I found that interesting.
For sure. Yeah, I don't think he makes it. And to me, he's not someone that's anywhere close to the 53, but he is someone that's a good practice squad candidate, because a guy like Lynn Bowden, I think, has been around too long to be on the practice squad. So yeah. I think in Kirkland, in that case, will be the practice squad special teams guy. So yeah, just getting those guys their reps, and asking them to do decent. So yeah, he's someone that I think will be a practice squad, or the position. I didn't really mention it earlier, but the position that I'm a little concerned about, and I'm interested to see who they keep, is secondary, more specifically safety. Kind of concerned there with, Marcus May and Honey Badger getting up in age, and Marcus May might get a game or two suspension now that his DUI case is settled. So, You got JT Gray as depth, but I mean, he just kind of is what he is. Smoke Monday, Jonathan Abram, both on the roster bubble, and the rookie Jordan Howden has looked okay, but not really stood out. So it's just like, be interesting to see who they keep there, because I'm a little concerned that the two veteran starters might miss some games here and there, and so the depth's going to have to be called upon, especially in those 4-2-5 looks when you're playing a lot of nickel. And I know that third spot will probably mainly be a cornerback, Bradley Roby, but there are certain packages where you need a third safety. So these safeties are going to have to step up.
The good news is that the fact that the Titans run so much, I think you probably will see more of a 4-3-4 kind of offense or a 5-2-4 when they play the Titans, because obviously you're going to load the box and try to stack it to stop Derrick Henry. But of course they got Tajay Spears, who's going to try to get around the edges and the periphery as well. So I think this defense for this first game, Spencer, is going to be a little bit different than the defense they're going to play most of the year, because you have to play the Titans a little bit differently than you play almost everyone.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, they're very different kind of offense. At Tannehill, they'll still throw though, and DeAndre Hopkins is there now. So, and Henry's getting up in age. I don't think it's going to be completely different, but I see your point though, in that the secondary will have to be more having to go against the run. So they're going to need that box stacked. They're going to need some safeties playing up more in the box, which, I mean, Marcus May and Tyrann Mathieu are capable of that. But again, depth might have to come in, because those guys are getting a little up in age.
I really like the way Alontae Taylor played last night, especially on that first pass that he knocked down. They took calling it a drop on that long pass. It was really a great pass by C.J. Stroud along the left sideline, but Alontae Taylor got his hand in there and knocked it away. I liked what I saw there, and I'm ready to see him take a step forward as well. He was great in preseason last year, and then he kind of faded a little bit, also got hurt. So I think once he got hurt, that kind of took away from what he was able to do. But I'm ready to see him take a step forward. Donnie asks, is Andrus Peat expendable, a fast declining player commanding a high salary? There's no doubt he commands a high salary. You know what? Maybe that's a shocker. I don't know how much of his money is guaranteed. If not a ton, and I really should go look this up. And I will. I'll go look this up. I can't do it during the show because I got too many screens going on. I want to slow my video down. But I tell you what, Zoe, maybe you can look that up and see how much Andrus Peat is guaranteed this year. But I got to tell you, Spencer, it would not shock me. I know it would be a big talk around local media, but if Andrus Peat was cut, I don't think that'd be a huge shock.
To me, it would be. That'd be a huge shock if he gets cut. I could maybe see him benching him, but cut? Wow, that would be.
Are you going to keep a guy around as a? Are you going to keep a guy around as a backup? I know his salary is, I think it was 4 years, $54 million.
Yeah, so me, you just can't cut him.
If his money's not guaranteed, you sure can. So here, let's see. $23 million guaranteed at signing. Total guarantee of $33.85 million. He already got $13 million of his signing bonus, so you'd have to chop that up across 2023 and 2024. Full guaranteed salaries in 2020 and 21. So not guaranteed now.
Okay.
I'd have to look and see exactly how much is guaranteed going forward, but I'm telling you, if you're not going to keep someone like that around, if you're not going to pay someone $8 to $10 million to be a second string guard, I just don't think so. That's an interesting point there, Donnie. I don't know the answer to that, but I am confident there is going to be some sort of major surprise tomorrow. I don't know 100% of what it's going to be, but there's going to be some major surprise tomorrow that a lot of people will be talking about. In fact, Saints Insider, if you have not checked it out yet, the Saints guys are doing podcast at least twice a week. It's going to be 3 times a week starting soon. I'm certain they're going to do one tomorrow after we find out the 53-man roster, and you can find that on the Saints NOLA.com Saints YouTube page. So check that out. All right, Spencer, we got a run before we get to our rants. Want to talk a little bit about LSU and Tulane. LSU, obviously, Sunday night against Florida State, 2.5-point favorite. That over-under has gone up and up and up. It started at 55.5. It's all the way up to 58 now. The LSU Tigers, now about 2 months ago, they were a point underdog, but it quickly jumped to LSU minus 2.5. It has remained there. And Tulane's kind of teetered back and forth. It was -7 against South Alabama, dropped to -6 last week, and now it is back to 6.5. Anything surprise you? What are you looking for this weekend?
No, these lines don't really surprise me. I tell you what, though, I'll say my final prediction for Thursday, but I'm kind of liking Florida State as underdogs. I think they're a team that's on a mission this year, and LSU could be as well. They had a great year last year, building momentum with Jaden Daniels, but I think some people might be setting the bar a little bit too high for LSU, whereas Florida State feel like it's getting a little slept on at times, and so to me, +2.5 could offer value.
I'm not sure what I'm going to pick yet. I'm not ready to talk about it either. I don't want to give a spoiler alert, but I think both of these teams are top 5 kind of teams. I think it's going to be just one of the better games of the year. I think it's going to come down to the wire. I think it's going to be a fight. Deborah says go Tigers, and Kevin says no way. Says you're wrong. I think it's just going to be super tight. I think we're going to find out a lot about both of these teams. I think the advantage that Jaden Daniels has is when he came in last year, obviously it was his first game. It was a fairly inexperienced offensive line, and now he's playing behind one of the best offensive lines in the country. Certainly in the top 10, I would say, and an experienced offensive line at that. Again, I think 4 or 5 came back. So it's going to be a tough pick. But again, I think when all is said and done at the end of this year, I think LSU and Florida State are both going to be in the conversation for playoffs. This is the last year, by the way, of the 14 playoff. I had some confusion. Some people were asking me earlier on my Facebook feed about the 12-team playoff. That does not take effect until the 24-25 season. So that is next year coming up. So one more year of this 14 baloney. But I think, again, both of these teams are going to be in the running, Spence. And Florida State, to me, I've said this before, if they can beat LSU, I think they have a great chance to run the table. I think they can beat Clemson twice. I think they're that much better than Clemson.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also even if LSU loses this game, the season's not over.
That's 100% true.
Alabama could be a little vulnerable. And then if LSU can pull off the win over Alabama for a second straight season, then it's like if the Florida State's their only loss, there's a chance both these teams could be in that 4-team playoff.
And I tell you, you see the numbers on the bottom of the screen of the LSU futures. I love 10-1 on Jaden Daniels to win the Heisman. Again, not saying Jaden Daniels is going to win the Heisman, but at 10-1, I think that's a really good value bet because I don't think it's going to be Caleb Williams. It is so hard to win back-to-back. So if you look at that, aspect of it, I think Jaden Daniels has a really good chance. And so 10-1, give me that all day. LSU make the playoffs at +300. I don't think that's a bad bet either. We'll have to wait and see. All right, let's get to our – well, you know what? Before we get to our rant real quickly on Tulane and South Al, it is super important. I mean, I hate to talk about must-wins in week 1, but if Tulane's going to kind of be like they were last year or be in that ballpark, they play Ole Miss next week at home. They've got South Al this week in week 1. They have got to win that game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a big one for Tulane. And, yeah, I think they'll get it done.
I think they will as well.
Yeah, I mean, the reports are positive. Got a good leadership at quarterback. Willie Fritz back as head coach. Getting the running game restocked now that Tajay Spears left and is it to the NFL. He'll be back in NOLA week 1 with the Titans. So that'll be a homecoming of sorts for him. But
Tulane still has some good running backs, Spence.
Right.
They have Ashad Clayton, who prepped at Warren Easton and was fantastic there, as well as Iverson Celestine from Fontainebleau, who I covered for a long time. He's also back and ready to go. So I think Tulane's fine, especially like you said, getting Mike Pratt back is a big deal. So I think that'll be key. And then they also have all but one of their offensive linemen are returning, and a lot of the core of their defense coming back as well. So I think Tulane could be just as good as they were last year, pretty darn close. All right, time to get into our rants, and I found yours interesting. I don't know that I necessarily agree with it, but there was a report, well, not a report, Matt Stafford's wife, who for some reason has a podcast, was talking about how her husband is having a lot of trouble relating to younger players because they're always on their phones, and which is what younger people do, not just younger players, but it's what younger people do. I have younger people in my house, and they're always on their phones. But Spence, why is this a big deal?
Well, the reality is, if you're in the NFL, you've got a lot of young players that you're teammates with. If you're a guy like Stafford that's in your mid-30s, and it's not like you're that much older than them, to where it's like, come on, man, you've got to quit making excuses. You've got to learn to adapt and be able to relate to these young players. You, as a quarterback or the leader of the locker room, you got to be able to rally the troops and get them to buy into what you're selling, or else the train's going to roll off the tracks. I mean, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets is already going in and got the young players like Sauce Gardner doing the little handshakes and all that. They're vibing good over there. Where the Rams, I mean, it just seems to be a sinking ship. And Matthew Stafford going home complaining to his wife surely isn't going to solve it. And now that this has come out, this could be trouble there. So it's I would feel like this. Look, if you're Matthew Stafford, if you can't stand being around the young players, they're always on their phone. They don't want to. He's all back in the day. We have ping pong tournaments and stuff. It's like, come on, man. You got to get the guys wanting to gel with you and wanting to be your friend. You can't just sit there and act like a grumpy old man. So to me, it's one of those things. If you don't like the young players and don't want to gel with them, then just retire.
Well, I'm gelling with my young teammates.
Exactly. You've been better than Matthew Stafford.
I wouldn't exactly.
And you're older than him.
a lot older than him. I think I'm not really in shape to play quarterback, but if they asked me to, I would. I mean, I would take the league minimum. Look, I will say this. The OGs of the world, they try to fit in sometimes, but we don't always. We try to be cool sometimes, but a lot of times we can't be. It's just hard. So I think that where Matthew Stafford's coming from is he's old school. And like you said, first off, his wife probably shouldn't be saying these sorts of things publicly, whether they're true or not true. And I'm guessing they're true because she would have no reason to lie about that. But I can't imagine the conversation when he went home and say, honey, do me a favor. When you're talking on your podcast, can you not say the things we were talking about at dinner? Probably not a good idea. So anyway, but look, he's got to find a way to relate, but it has to work both ways. I mean, teammates have to do what teammates have to do. And I guess part of it was for him was he was having trouble with them. They're like calling him sir. But what's wrong with that? A little respect given, I don't know. Maybe they don't have respect in Georgia. I don't know. Whatever. I'm not going to get on the Bulldogs. I hear you. I don't know that I necessarily agree, but I think that he needs to find a way. He does need to find a way to relate a little bit better. What I don't agree with you about is the Rams. I think the Rams are going to be a surprise team. I've already done them in my NFL team previews. By the way, tomorrow we start 2 teams a week for the rest of the week. Zoe will be happy to know the Chicago Bears tomorrow. Can't wait to do that prediction. Time for my rant. And look, this time of year, it's really hard when you wake up in the morning and you're trying to get fired up about the regular season. You flip around. I'm trying to avoid news because the news is really depressing just in general. All they're talking about is the heat. It was 105 degrees yesterday, like we said earlier. So let me turn on some football talk. Turn on the NFL Network. What do I get? Aaron Rodgers. Oh, my God. He threw 8 passes. It was the greatest thing ever. Goo, goo, gaga. Aaron Rodgers. We love Aaron Rodgers. I'm like, can't watch this. Click. Let me turn on ESPN. What are they talking about? Trey Lance being traded to the Dallas Cowboys. For 2 segments, they're talking about this. Going on and on and on. Ryan Clark and Dan Orlovsky. And how big of a shame it is that they didn't ask Jerry Jones, who spent billions of dollars to buy the Dallas Cowboys, and it's worth, I don't know, probably like $1 trillion now? I have no idea. But he didn't ask Dak Prescott's permission. What a shame. I can't believe we're spending time on this. Who cares? They're making me dumber, Spencer. Watching these shows are making me dumber. And the September 10th, I guess Kansas City is September 7th or 8th or whatever it is. It can't get here soon enough.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I could do a whole nother rant about their content plan, but I will say that for another day. But yeah, it's just just annoying. I've gotten to the point where I just read the news. Just go online, read the news, and then leave it at that. And I usually just come up with my own opinions. And sometimes I'll watch like the YouTube shows or whatever. Just like
watch Bayou Bets.
Exactly. Yeah, watch us. Bayou Bets, Saints Insider. We got you covered. No, you don't have to watch you don't have to suffer through the dribble they spew out on ESPN and NFL Network.
One thing we will never do here at Bayou Bets is make you dumber. I promise that. I can make that promise to you. We will never make you dumber. At least not today. Who knows? Thursday, maybe I'll make you dumber when we make our first set of predictions. I guess we're going to have our first picks this coming week, huh? Thursday? Is that our first picks? Big bucks?
It's all start college, but
we're going to start big bucks this week? We're going to have to think about that. All right, well, at least I don't know if we're going to start our big bucks segment or not on Thursday, but we will certainly have predictions for you one way or the other. How's that? Does that sound like a good plan?
I'm down.
All right. NFL team previews. We got the NFC North on Tuesday and Wednesday. Tomorrow it's the Bears and Lions, and then on Wednesday it'll be the Packers and Vikings. And before we get to the AFC North, on Thursday, we do those Thursday and Friday. And then next week it's the NFC South. We're previewing them every day from Tuesday to Friday on all these same channels you're watching. We hope you can subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. For Zoe Collins' wrath in the background, you can't see her, but she's there, I promise you. Spencer the Guru Urquhart. I am Jim Derry. We will see you on Thursday. Peace and love, my friends.